Hey guys, have you ever stopped and asked yourself, when did working hard stop being enough? Because most of us were raised to believe in a pretty simple plan, right? Work hard, stay loyal, show up every day, pay your bills, save what you can, and eventually everything would work out. You would own a home, you would build a comfortable retirement, and one day you would finally have the freedom to enjoy your life. That was the promise. But somewhere along the way, the numbers changed. People are working harder than ever, and many of them are still falling behind. Think about it. The cost of groceries keep going up. Gas costs more. Housing costs more. Insurance costs more. Almost everything is getting more expensive, except the value of our paychecks. So let me ask you, if working harder is not solving the problem, what will? That was the question I eventually had to ask myself. Look, for 10 years, I worked in private security. I worked long hours. I worked nights, weekends, holidays, sometimes 12 hours at a time, sometimes even longer. And I told myself it was all worth it because I was providing, I was doing what responsible people do. I showed up, I worked hard, and I kept going. But there was something that I did not understand at the time. Okay. I was not only trading my energy for a paycheck, I was trading my time. And time is the one thing you can never earn back. Right? You can make more money. You can replace a job. You can rebuild your savings, but you cannot make more yesterdays, right? You cannot earn that time back. The birthdays that you missed, the holidays that you worked through, the family dinners that you were too tired to enjoy, or the trips that you kept saying you would take someday. That realization became a turning point for me. I was not looking for some magic button. I was not looking for overnight success. And I certainly was not looking for another job that would take even more of my time. I was looking for options, okay? Something I could build around my life instead of continuing to build my entire life around work. That is what eventually led me to online business. Now, I understand what some people think when they see the words online business. It probably sounds complicated, right? Maybe it sounds like something your younger people would do. Or maybe you are thinking, here we go, another person trying to sell me something. Honestly, I probably would have thought the same thing years ago. But what I discovered was much more practical. It was about learning real skills, how to create content, how to communicate with the right people, how to use simple systems, and how to allow automation to handle many of the repetitive tasks. And it was not about cold calling strangers. It was not about chasing friends and family. It was not about filling the garage with products. It was about learning how to build something a couple focused hours a day, okay? And that was the part I wanted you to understand. Hard work still matters. I will never tell you it does not, okay? But in today's world, hard work by itself may no longer be enough, because if all your income depends on continuing to show up every day, week after week, year after year, then what happens when you cannot show up? What happens if your hours are reduced? What happens if your company downsizes? What happens if your health changes? Or what happens when you finally want to retire, but the numbers simply do not work? That is why building another source of income is not only about money, it's about creating options. It's about having a little more breathing room, guys. It's about knowing that your entire future does not depend on one employer, one paycheck, or one retirement plan. You do not need to change your entire life today. Okay, look, you do not need to quit your job tomorrow, but you may need to start asking yourself a better question. Instead of asking, how can I work more? Ask yourself, what can I start building with the time I have already, right? Because another 10 hours of overtime might help with this month's bills, but learning a new skill could help change the next 10 years of your life. Now, look, if this conversation resonates with you, go to my website, click the link in my profile here, okay? Put your email in, get our 10K and 30-day blueprint, watch the free videos, and take a look what I've been building and learning. Then decide for yourself whether it fits your life. and your goals. Because 20 years from now, most people will not wish they had worked more overtime. They will wish they had recognized that the world was changing and started building another option sooner. Talk to you soon, guys.